Hi everybody, and welcome to this fly tying tutorial. For my pattern today, I'm going to be tying a Charlie Craven fly called the Charlie Boy Hopper. This is just a really fun pattern to tie. These are just really cool patterns of fish as well, especially if you like the whole hopper-dropper combo system when fishing. I'll get right into this fly. I'll tell you a little bit about it as I'm going. First, I'm going to be tying with some Unithread 3/0. I'm using the color brown. For this Charlie Boy Hopper, this is probably the recommended thread. However, the body's typically tan foam. I'm going to be using a yellow foam only because I fish this more as an attractor than a hopper. I seem to have, pretty decent luck on it, so it's never really, been an issue if I have not caught many fish on it. So I'm just going to go with it, and I'm going to keep fishing this same color. To first start off, I'm going to be tying on a size 10 hook. This is a 1X long hook, and it's an Allen fly fishing hook. It's a D103BL, and that BL is because it's barbless. So that's a nice thing. I don't have to worry too much about the barb on this hook. This is considered a dry fly and a light nymph hook. So it's just a slightly heavier wire than you would normally see on a dry fly hook, which is absolutely appropriate for this fly because this fly really has nothing but just foam and deer hair, so it'll float forever. All right, the first thing I did was I wrapped my brown thread straight down the hook shank, and I'm going to build up just a small body. So I'm just grabbing a little piece of foam. We're talking a tiny piece of foam. I'm just going to line it up against the shank. Just cut it a little bit back from the eye. And that's about the length that I want. Nothing crazy. I'm just going to lash this in. Don't worry about making this look pretty whenever you put this piece in. This is going to be completely covered by everything, so you just want to make sure that this piece is lashed in. We're only using it to build up the body and to increase the diameter of the body for this hopper. Okay, so you can see I'm just lashing it in. I'm not worrying too much about how pretty it is, and that's it. Now, if you really want to bear down, because if you're using this 3/0 monocord or the 3/0 thread, you can bear down a little bit more. So I'm going to go to about this point, and I'm going to stop. All right, next I'm going to place in the actual body, and for the body I'm just using some yellow foam. I'll zoom out a little bit so you can see exactly how much foam I have. There's not really a lot here. Now, this is one of the trickiest parts of the fly, and it's figuring out how wide to cut this foam, because this is just cheap foam you can buy at any fabric store. The width that I cut out is basically the same measurement as the inside of the hook. So between the point and your hook shank, I expect that piece to fit in there. If it fits in there, it's about the right size. Have I gone smaller? Absolutely. Have I gone with a little bit of a thicker body? Yeah, that's fine too, but that's about the ideal size right in there. All right, now to get this onto the hook, we're going to be doing a couple things. Basically, we're going to be eventually folding it over itself, and it's going to be sitting like this. So you can see I probably have a little bit more than I need, and that's okay. That's not really a bad thing. So I'm just going to go up maybe an inch on this foam and place the hook right through the center. I want to make sure I get it right around the center. And I have that right through the center, and I'm actually going to take my hook out of the vise and pop this piece around. And that's the entire, we'll just say the measurement of getting this piece on. It's nothing crazy at all. Once you have that placed around, then you're just going to move it forward a little bit, put the hook back into the vise, and spin this piece of foam around. Now I'm going to be pulling it back over itself, so I need to get the eye of the hook through that foam. An easy way to do that is just to pull this foam up to where you want it. So I'm going to have it just like that. The eye is going to be hitting right there, so I'm just going to grab my bodkin, poke just a little hole straight through it, and then bring that back. So I'm basically going to pop the eye through. Once you hear pop, that is it. So now we have this piece attached. Now the thread is hanging on my side. I'll let it hang on your side so you can see exactly what's going on. So the next step is without a doubt the messiest step, and it's a real pain in the butt, but it just works. I mean, this is a very, very simple thing to do. We're going to be applying a layer of super glue right here, and then folding it back over, and then wrapping to lash everything in. So super glue is really messy. If you've tied with it before, you know that. If you've used it in general, you know that as well. So this is probably nothing that I really have to explain to you. So I just have some cheap super glue here. I'm not worried about anything using really a high-end brand for this. And I'm going to go with less is more in this case. So I'm just putting just a little bit on. I'm just squeezing a little bit out just putting it a little bit on the hook, and that's it. So I don't want to go. I don't want to go anything crazy, because if you have too much on, it will build up. I'm actually going to let it just soak into this foam for about 10 seconds, and I pray that some gets soaked in. Then I'm just going to pop this foam piece on itself. After I have it on itself, we're going to make sure that the ends are lined up and the sides are lined up, which they are. And then I'm going to make a couple aggressive wraps. 1, 2, 3, 4. And you can really bear down on this. Now when you make those wraps, make sure that thread doesn't get latched onto your hook. All right, let me zoom back in so you can really see what I'm doing from a closer standpoint. Okay, I'm going to start tying before this super glue dries. Then after I've done that, I might go forward once and create another section. I'll show you what that looks like. Now if this foam turns, don't worry, just turn it back. I might go forward one more time and lash this top section in. Okay, I might turn this just a little bit, push those together, make sure everything's setting correctly with that super glue. This is what it looks like from the top of my fly. From the bottom, just little segments. Okay, at this point, everything's going smooth. I'm going to let my thread hang for a second, and I want to next cut the back section of this fly off. So to cut this back section off, I'm just going to grab a double-sided blade, and I'm going to be going straight back. So I'm not worried so much if it cuts up or if it cuts too far down. I'm just going to try to hold this back, so I want just a little bit of an arch to it. And then I'm going to insert my blade and just wiggle back and forth. It will cut really slick, trust me. All right, so now if you look at it, it's just kind of an odd cut because those pieces may not have been lined up, and that's not a big deal. That's where you grab your pair of scissors if you want to use a rounded set, which I typically use a rounded set. So you can use a rounded set for this or a straight edge. It really is up to you. In this case, I'm going to use a straight edge, and I'm just going to make sure my cut going across the back was straight. And I'm just going to taper it in just a little bit on each side. And I'll show you what this looks like once I have it finished. Okay. So I made a couple cuts. I'm not loving it, so let me grab my other scissors. They are a little sharper. I blame Tim Abbott for making me set a couple pairs of scissors out on my bench. All right, so this is the side view. I'm just going to trim that just a hair more. Just make it a little pointier at the back. And this is the top view. So you can see there's just a slight taper cutting back, and if I play around with this a little bit more, I'd probably make that a little more of aggressive of a taper on both sides. So let me do that just so I'm okay with myself. Okay, that's a lot better. Okay, so if you take a look at this, now you can see a little bit better of a taper that's forming there. Okay, next I'm going to go back to the front, and I'm going to make that one wrap. I'm going to loop it back down to this second body segment. Now whenever you do that, you want to be careful, because if you're looping it back around, that means on the bottom of the hook, I'll show you what just happened there. So I made that one extra bend to loop that, and it shows on the bottom. So you have to decide if that's something that you want, because it's really tough to go back once you're there. Now if you just simply reverse your thread wraps, excuse me, now everything in the front will stay glued together, and you can get back to that point. Now I'm going to do that just to tie on my legs. I just have some nice rubber legs here, nothing crazy. If you want to use another color, you can. You can use brown if you want to offset the color, or black. I have some speckled chartreuse. Sometimes I'll throw those on here. But I really like these rounded rubber legs. I'm just going to pull those off. I'll zoom out so you can kind of see what I'm doing here after I get them separated. So I have the two legs separated. I'm going to tie one in on one side and then the other. So I'll turn this up so you can really see what I'm doing. It's almost like I'm tying it in from the top. I'm going to leave the leg a little bit longer, and then I'll trim it. So I just put that one leg in from the top. It's now facing me, and I can actually leave my thread hang, place the other leg on the inside of my thread, and just pull it straight up. Now it's directly in the middle. It's on the side facing you. I'll pull it so it's the same length, even though I'm going to be cutting those in a second. I'm just going to hold them, pull tight, make a couple wraps, lock them in, and then I'll move this over so you can see what I'm doing. I'm pulling this leg back so I don't get it captured, and then I might go back, and I'm going to go back over in that spot that I had already tied in before. Then I'll be able to see my indentations in that foam. Just lock that in again. And I think I can zoom back in for you. All right, and then I'm just going to take this leg that's on this side, set it back down, lock it in against that body segment, and do the same on the near side. Just make a couple more wraps. 1 and 2, and that's more than enough. Now I'm going to cut my legs at this point. I am not so particular if they're the same length. I'm not really that type of a person. I like to leave them a little bit longer in the back than in the front. I'm just going to trim them one more time in the back. Okay, so those ones that's that length, and then for the front I'm just going to hold them forward and make a little cut. Again, the legs I don't feel are life or death for the antenna, so they look something like that. And it's okay if they're not going exactly perfect. I really don't want them perfect. I'm not sure how many things in nature tend to be perfect. Okay, for this Charlie's Boy hopper, the last step that we have left is to tie some deer hair in. So I have a little patch of deer hair. I like to use this patch for comparisons. I'm kind of getting low on this patch. It's not looking so great. I'm going to grab a little clump of it. And I've noticed on this pattern, there's a lot of deer hair that's tied in. I don't think I tie in as much as the pattern calls for, but that's just my personal preference. All right, I've trimmed the clump. I'm going to take my comb out some of those guard hairs, some of that excess fur in there, the insulation. Then I grab my stacker, place it inside my stacker, stack it around 7 times. Oops, sorry. Okay, and when I pull it out, my tips should be lined up. There's a couple that don't look so hot. In fact, I'm going to do that again. I don't like how those ones came out. Okay, that looks a little better. I think I was pushing from the open section of this. Okay, so I have my stack. Now there's a couple different methods that are used at this step. One method is to line up your hairs in the back, hold them in one hand, and then trim them, and then pull your thread tight. I don't do that. It's a way so you're sure that you're only cutting the butt ends. I really don't tend to have a problem after I have these tied in cutting the butt ends. And I'll show you exactly how I tie them in. Let me zoom in a little bit. So I want the deer hair tips to extend just past the bend of the hook. So once I have those lined up, I might take my left hand and grab them. Pinch them tight. Bring my thread up. Let it go relatively loose. So I'm just have those deer hair fibers just kind of captured lightly. I'm going to make a second wrap and then pull. And a third, fourth, and fifth. That's it. I'm done. Let me zoom out. Now this is where you can put in a half hitch, or if you use a whip finisher, this is where your whip finisher would come in. I prefer the hand whip finisher, and I'll just show you how I'm going to do that. So I'm just going to extend the thread, make my loop, and then it doesn't matter if I mat some of these fibers down. There's 1, there's 2, there's 3. I pull my thread. If I have any that are captured, I can cut them out of there. So I give it a little extra tension. Now if you are not quite sure if you have that locked in right, if you're just kind of doubting and you want to do a second time, that's fine. By this time you'll have all those fibers out of the way. I typically don't, but I'll just show you that it really isn't going to build up anything more. And I do place head cement on this, and I'll show you what I do when I finish this fly. Okay, so I have my thread trimmed out of the way. I grab my other set of scissors to cut my deer hair. You can see most of my tips are shooting forward, or the butt ends of these fibers. The one thing you want to make sure you don't do is cut that other rubber leg over there. So make sure you grab them. It's okay if I make a couple cuts. Just going to make my first initial cut, get some of those fibers out of the way. Make my second cut, get a few more, and then now I start to go in to just get all these cleaned up and trimmed nicely. And it's up to you on how close you trim them. Might just get some of these pulled out of here. Okay. Alright, now that's about as many as I'm going to be trimming out of there. I like to trim a little tight, but not super tight. I want to make sure I get all those butt sections out of there. Okay, and I think that was the last one. I'm sure I have one more in there, but I can't see it, so if you can see it out there in YouTube land, you are a better person than me. Alright, I'll just finally get any of these loose ones, just kind of not loose ones, but just those end ones trimmed away. Alright, if you want to kind of use those pieces to cover your wraps, you're more than welcome to do that, but it's really not essential at this stage of the game. I'll give you a peek at the side profile of this fly. There's the bottom of the fly. There's a couple things that Charlie can also recommend. Is this going to help you catch any more fish? Absolutely not, but I'm just going to turn this to the side, pull that back, and with a Sharpie, place a little dot, give it a nice cute little eye. Do the same thing on the other side. Oops, I think I missed a spot there. Okay, I got maybe a little bit of Sharpie on that rubber leg, but not a big deal. So I now have my Sharpie on there. Got my little eyes. I'll move that leg up so you can see that eye. There he is. He's looking at you. And then to finalize this, I do like placing a little bit of head cement underneath. So I'm just going to dip my bodkin in my head cement and just place a little. I'll show you what I'm doing. Just placing a little on the bottom of that wrap right there. Now, if you want to coat the other wraps, you're more than welcome to. I just like putting a little bit there where I finish the fly, just to make sure everything is locked in place. Okay, and there is my finished fly. So once again, this is a size 10 Charlie Boy Hopper. This is tied on an Allen fly fishing hook. It's the D103BL. It's a dry fly and light nymph hook. You can find those at allenflyfishing.com. Well, as always, I appreciate you viewing this YouTube video. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave them directly on this YouTube page, or you can email me at tcammisa@gmail.com. Thank you, everybody, for viewing this tutorial.